Alrighty, so today we're going to do another News of the Week episode on this eve of the World Cup. And that, despite the fact that the World Cup is about to begin, we definitely had a lot of news that came out of MLS in the past couple of days. Specifically, we did had free agency opening, and we had some transfer rumors and signings that happened, and even some transfer outbound that is going on this past couple of days. But it's also going to be interesting to see whether we're going to get those news again once the World Cup does begin, and that I of course will be making my World Cup prediction right after when I finish recording this video. I mean, I was gonna do it earlier this week, but plans kind of pushed back to a way where I'm actually doing this last second before we had our first World Cup game tomorrow between Qatar versus Ecuador. But the first news that we're going to talk about is actually a transfer outbound that is going on with the Philadelphia Union, who officially cashed in on the Paxten Aaronson sweepstake with the way that they have sold him off to Eintracht Frankfurt for $4 million plus a huge sell-on fees. Now, I didn't think Paxten Aaronson got as much minutes and really kind of developed in a way where it was similar to his brother Brandon Aaronson, where, he not only did very well for the Union, but they were commanding him for a big transfer fee, which eventually he got when he made that big European move to RB Salzburg. Now, with Paxten Aaronson going to Eintracht Frankfurt, I think this is going to be a much bigger jump compared to his brother, mainly because Eintracht Frankfurt is doing very well this season in the Bundesliga and currently is in fourth place. And I'm going to be interested to see whether is he going to get some minutes. I mean, I'm assuming he's going to get minutes because, we've seen a lot of these young Americans, when they do go abroad and go to Europe, it's usually going to the Bundesliga or go to the Netherlands or in the VC, because these are the league that at least give young players and especially young Americans a chance to develop their career before potentially sold on to a bigger club. And that's what the Philadelphia Union is hoping for, because again, the important thing is not just the $4 million transfer fee, but also the sell-on fees. This could be a big sell-on fees, even though they didn't tell us exactly how much percent the sell-on fees is going to be. But if it's going to be big, yeah, they're going to definitely make much more money than the $4 million that they, of course, have already received when they decided to sell Paxten Aaronson to Eintracht Frankfurt. Now, one player that made his jump to Europe about a couple years and now are actually coming back to MLS is Cole Bassett, who the Colorado Rapids decided to recall him on loan, and that, I think this was simply because of the fact that Cole Bassett wasn't really having too much success in Europe. And again, this does happen sometimes where you have these young prospect players want to make their dream move to Europe, but things kind of didn't quite work out, and they decided to come back to MLS. And in the case of Cole Bassett, the good thing about him is that he's still relatively young in a way where, if he can continue to develop his way with the Colorado Rapids, he can get another shot in terms of playing Europe, because like I said, a lot of the reason why he is coming back to MLS is because he hasn't really been getting minutes and kind of are dropping down the pecking order of potentially be a future U.S. men's national team player. So yeah, overall, I think certainly for the Rapids, I think this is a good thing, because Cole Bassett was very important for this team last year, part of a big run that they had last year when they finished first in the Western Conference, and we'll see whether that's going to be the case again, because he's going to be more hungry than ever before for trying to prove that he has the makings of potentially go back to Europe and play for another team in Europe. Now, moving on, in terms of the next news, is LAFC re-signing Ryan Hollingshead to a contract extension through 2025. Now, this was kind of a little bit surprising in a way where, if there was one player that I thought LAFC was probably not going to re-sign, it's Ryan Hollingshead. I thought it was going to be more like a rental when they decided to get him last season, but, they really loved the work ethic that he put in for the team, and that, they decided to lock him to a long-term contract. And mind you, again, he wasn't really supposed to be the guy that when they signed him to be kind of the regular starter, but with the way that he has had some big impact both as a starter or coming off the bench, it makes sense that they decided to lock him up to a long-term contract. Now, Austin FC have decided to sign Alfonso Chavez off the waiver list. Now, this is a guy that has been in the Sounders Academy system for a very long time, but unlike a lot of these young Sounders player coming out of the academy that look like could potentially break into the first team. Alfonso Chavez have not really got that kind of opportunity, and that it just kind of had a feeling that maybe he needs to have a you need to move on to greener pasture, and that quite literally he's going to be joining now a team that is wearing green in Austin FC. And again, it's going to be interesting to see whether if he is going to get minutes. Again, it's unfortunate that he didn't really get a lot of minutes with the Sounders, and it's tough for a lot of those youngsters that came out of the Sounders Academy, because in order to get into the main team, you gotta hope that the Sounders are just kind of playing one of those games where they're just clearly punting the game and focus on other competition, which they did for last season when they were in CCL, and even during the time when they have an injury riddle problem. But it's just also the fact that he just didn't really get a lot of minutes, and that I feel like he knows that if he wants to continue to develop to be a decent player, which I think he could, he needs to go somewhere else, and we'll see whether Austin will give him the chance to do so. Now, FC Dallas have signed Jose Milito from Deportivo Cali. I believe he's a midfielder for that club. Now, I don't really know a lot about this player, other than the fact that he does come in the same club as the Chara brothers. Was when the Timbers, of course, signed them. So maybe there's going to be a good thing. But again, it's just one of those signings where, Dallas, I feel like they have definitely got much stronger in terms of the scouting department. And that, remember how I said a couple of years that, while Dallas still have by far the best academy in MLS, and that when you look at this U.S. men's national team, pretty much half of them came through the Dallas Academy. They really suck in terms of trying to find talent in terms of the senior level or more senior player, or trying to find talent from other leagues. And we'll see whether if this is going to be the case, especially in the last years or so, when they finally not only started spending big on some of the transfer move, but finally getting it right. We'll see whether if this is going to be one of those one. Now, going back to Austin FC, they have acquired Sofian Jeffel from DC United in exchange for 50,000 GM and first round pick. Now, this is kind of a weird one, because I thought Jeffel, he didn't really do that well with DC United, and I guess maybe this is another example of a player that maybe need to a change of scenery to get himself back into good form. Which joining Austin, I don't know if that's going to be the case, but yeah, it's kind of a weird one, but also kind of one maybe just for depth reason, because Austin, they do have a lot of midfield option, and this of course does add into one of them. Now, Toronto FC have acquired Thomas Romero from the re-entry draft. Now, this obviously is one of the big needs that TFC has besides defender this offseason, where they probably need a new goalkeeper, and it's going to be interesting to see that. I'm not sure if they're going to let go either Alex Bono or Quentin Westberg after this offseason. If not, then add Thomas Romero in terms of the list of players that is going to be fighting for that starting goalkeeping spot, because for the past couple of years, TFC has had a lot of issue in terms of deciding who is actually the number one goalkeeper for this team. And that, Thomas Romero, he definitely spent a couple of years with LAFC, and even was a starter for this team. He was okay, but, certainly I would say he's kind of right around the bang average level in terms of being a good quality goalkeeper. And we'll see, with him going to TFC and a chance that, him getting some starting minutes, whether if it's going to be the case. Because like I said, if both Westberg and Bono is going to stay there, it's going to be a big competition to see who, of course, is going to win that spot, or if we're actually going to get a number one goalkeeper for TFC heading into this season. Now, FC Cincinnati has reported to sign young Ecuadorian international Marco Angulo for $3 million. And also, by the way, we're now moving to the part of the video where we talk about some of the transfer rumors, and there was definitely some very interesting one. But this one is definitely interesting in a way where he actually just missed out on the cut of being with Ecuador and going to Qatar this World Cup. And a lot of people said that he's definitely one of those players that are kind of like that young South American player that can come to the league, develop into a level where they can definitely sell off for a bit of profit, and that's what Cincinnati is trying to do. And again, Cincinnati, with the way that with this new sporting director and new regime that they have put in, you can see that it has definitely been much better than the old regime that they had by a country mile. And a lot of people say that this is a very decent signing for Cincinnati, and that, yeah, for $3 million, you better hope that he is going to be a guy that can develop to be a decent player that could be an anchor in this midfield for FC Cincinnati. Now, DC United is also in talk to bring in the free agent goalkeeper Tyler Miller after there was contract talk with David Ochoa was broke down. Now, obviously, it's not a big surprise that there was a feeling that maybe DC wasn't going to keep hold of David Ochoa, because I thought Ochoa during his time with DC United, besides that one game that he had against RSL where he was decent, which, I mean, that's not a big surprise when he was facing against his former team and the team that let him go, he has been very mediocre. And it's a shame too, because the fact that I've heard that he's been having a lot of attitude problem, and that for a while we always mentioned David Ochoa being the prime villain in the league with his antics and all his dark arts that he has practiced. Well, when you of course do that, if you of course, I mean, we will have some villains like this, and in some way it's kind of good for MLS that we sometimes will have these villains to kind of make the league a little bit entertaining. But it just gets to a point where if you're going to kind of create those antics, you better back up in terms of having decent performance. And that's just not been the case for David Ochoa. And I even heard that there's been some very just kind of tense talk in the contract where David Ochoa was demanding for much more money from DC, and that DC was clearly saying no, and that's why the contract talk is broke down. And it's just getting to a point where, again, he's still a relatively young goalkeeper, a player that definitely had some good potential to even be the next goalkeeper for the Mexican national team. But it's just that I feel like, one, he needs to maybe let off his antics a little bit, and especially kind of change his attitude a little bit. And then secondly, he needs to, of course, try to get himself back to form, because the way that he's been performing this past year has been nowhere near as good as when he came out of RSL. And it's just such a shame, because he's a very talented goalkeeper. He has the potential to be a decent goalkeeper, but it's just the antics and the attitude problem that has kind of made him to a point where, it's going to be interesting that if he is going to be let go and become a free agent, is any team even going to try to maybe risk it and sign him there? But going back to the goalkeeper that they're going to sign in Tyler Miller, again, I'm kind of a little bit disappointed in the Loons, the fact that, they had a chance to get some money out of Tyler Miller, and that they didn't need to let him go as a free agent. But yeah, it seems like that, of course, is the case. And again, for a lot of teams that have goalkeeping issue, Tyler Miller is definitely one of the goalkeepers that a lot of teams that is looking to try to get if they want to fix their goalkeeping situation. I mean, heck, I'm surprised TFC haven't really looked into it. Though, again, as I mentioned earlier, they have decided to get one of the players that used to play for LAFC and now for DC. They're basically doing the same thing. But again, I know during the time when Tyler Miller was with Minnesota, he was a rock solid goalkeeper until the point where he eventually did lose his job to Dane Sinclair. And again, for a while, I think it was pretty clear that his time with the Loons was coming to an end, because the quality that he has as a goalkeeper, he's too good to be a backup goalkeeper for the Loons. And that again, I just really wish that they didn't just kind of run down his contract to a way where now he's going to be let go for absolutely nothing. I mean, the Loons could have got at least some profit out of that. But hey, let's see if DC can, of course, do so. And if that is the case, I think that's going to be a very good signing, and at least kind of fix the goalkeeping issue that they had, where, again, there's still status of when exactly Bill Hamid is going to come back, and especially he's been kind of injury prone in the last couple of years. They need to have a starting goalkeeper that most likely is going to be their starting goalkeeper, or maybe even take away Bill Hamid's job in between the stick in that team. Now, moving on, in terms of next news, we're going to talk about Atlanta United is rumored to sign free agent Derek Etienne Jr. from the Columbus Crew. Now, I was very surprised to see Columbus decided to let go of Derek Etienne Jr., because there's time where Etienne Jr. was one of the best attacker for the Crew, especially when he comes off the bench. And, for Atlanta, knowing the fact that Gonzalo Pineda really likes to implement his wingers, and Etienne is definitely a player that can definitely be a well-proven winger that can do good things in this league. this makes perfect sense. And again, the fact that Atlanta can potentially sign him off for free, that's definitely a huge steal for them. And that, again, it's just a little bit surprised the fact that Columbus decided to let him go, even though I know Etienne kind of started to drop down the depth chart a little bit as the year goes along, to a point where he was kind of making substitute appearance instead of being a regular starters. Now, FC Cincinnati decided that they're looking to sign FC Dallas defender Matt Hedges. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to be a free agency signing. I think it is, because Dallas did announce that they decided to let go of their long-time defender Matt Hedges, and that has to be emotional if you're Matt Hedges. I mean, he's been a legend for FC Dallas. He's been there for a very, very long time, and that, it's kind of emotional that his time with Dallas eventually is now coming to an end. But here comes Cincinnati, a chance to of course sign him, and if that is going to be the case, I mean, that's also is going to help Cincinnati case, because the defense last season, although it was a little bit better last year, they can definitely need some improvement. And Matt Hedges, knowing the fact that, again, another player that is a well-proven talent in MLS, I think this is going to be a good signing if FC Cincinnati can acquire him. Now, the New York Red Bulls is also closing in to trying to sign Corey Burke from the Philadelphia Union. Now, obviously, the Red Bulls have been looking to try to solve their striker problem. I mean, really, they have not had a decent number 9 ever since Bradley Wright Phillips left this team a couple of years ago, and that they're thinking that maybe Corey Burke is going to be the answer, which, again, as much as Corey Burke is definitely an impact sub, and that, during his time with the Union, we've seen him come off the bench and able to score some goals there. Again, I don't know if he's going to be that answer in terms of solving the issue that the Red Bulls, of course, had in terms of no decent number 9 that can always find that killer instinct to put the ball into the back. And that's nothing to knock on Corey Burke. I think he's a decent player, but I think he's more decent when he come off the bench rather than be a regular starter. So yeah, this is kind of interesting that is, if this is going to be the case, that the Red Bulls are going to be signing. I mean, as long as if they can maybe get him off the bench and maybe use him as an impact sub in terms of the number 9 position, I think that's going to work out, because I'm pretty sure they're not going to try to start Patrick Klimala or try to start Corey Burke over Patrick Klimala. I mean, especially with the way that Klimala is still a DP on them, and that it's not really a good look if you decide to put your start number 9 on the bench, and you decide to get a number 9 that you got in Corey Burke being regular starter, even though he's not a guy that tends to get a lot of starting minutes. And even in his few time when he get regular starting minutes, he's kind of iffy at best. So yeah, again, it would be a good signing if the Red Bulls are going to use him as an impact sub. But if this is going to be the answer to solve in terms of that problem with the number 9 position for the Red Bulls for a long time now, yeah, I don't think that's going to be a good answer. Now, the Seattle Sounders have announced that they are going to be retaining their sporting director, Garth Lagerwey. So, one of the unique thing about the Sounders is that they're only team that the season ticket holder can actually vote on whether or not if they want to retain their sporting director. And I love that when they have this, because, it's a great way to give power to the supporters, with the way that, nowadays in MLS, and especially in modern football or soccer nowadays, that, it seems like the fans are starting to kind of lose that rights in terms of how they control their team, and they're kind of more used just as an asset rather than a way to have changes to the team. And that, the Sounders is one of those few teams that at least they give their fans at least an opinion and a voice on how they can change their front office. And it seems like Sounders fans were happy of the job that Garth Lagerwey has done. I mean, I don't blame them, because Garth Lagerwey has done a very good job for the Sounders. I mean, even last year with the way that they didn't make it to the playoffs for the first time in franchise history, the fact that they were able to win the CONCACAF Champions League, a trophy that every single MLS team had been dreaded to finally conquer, I think Sounders fan will absolutely take the fact that even if they miss the playoffs, they'll be happy that they did something that nobody has ever done in MLS history. And that, again, part of it is Garth Lagerwey does a great job in terms of building this core and have this long-term success that, you know, in a league that is as competitive and have shown some parity throughout the past couple of years. This is something that the Sounders doing is something kind of unprecedented. So not a big surprise to see him retaining that spot as the sporting director. And then finally, in the last news of this week, we got AJ De La Garza decided that he's going to sign a one-day contract to retire with the LA Galaxy. Definitely a great thing to see, because AJ De La Garza has been such a legend, not only with the Galaxy, but in general in MLS, but mostly with the Galaxy, doing those MLS Cup winning year in the early days. He was just a rock solid fullbacks, and you could even argue that, you know, his presence is still left to be felt with the way that, you know, the Galaxy still have not found a decent amount of fullbacks ever since De La Garza left this team about a couple of years ago. But either way, you know, there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the news of the week. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all of these news? And as always, if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below. And again, I probably are not going to do like these news of the week episode every 3 days while the World Cup is going to happen, but I'm pretty sure that there are still going to be some news that's going to be surrounding MLS as the World Cup begins, and especially, you know, with the way that there are a lot of players that are not involved in this World Cup. I'm pretty sure there's going to be still some transfer deals and some trades that's going to happen within the leagues that could still happen during the World Cup. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.